Good morning, all. Welcome to everyone that's here. This is always a good time to get to know a lot more about our school district and the workings within, so I appreciate everyone being here today and the wisdom that they will bring to us. If you could please stand and join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Mr. Superintendent, I will just turn it right over to you.
Thank you. Good morning. And just want to make, before we start, we have a representative here this morning who's going to make a presentation. But before we do that, I wanted her to hear this as well. But Lincoln Park Academy's girls basketball team and Coach Wendell Adams. Wendell's been there for 22 years. He grew up across the street from the school. His mother and father attended the school. And they've been trying for 22 years to get to the Final Four. And they beat St. Petersburg, a team that's a twice defending state champion, Friday or Saturday night. So they'll be playing in the Final Four Thursday up in Lakeland against American Heritage at 12 o'clock noon. And there's two young ladies on the team that are going to go for Division I scholarships. Some other girls will get some other scholarships. But I've known Wendell for many, many years when I was here the first time. And I know that this has been 22 years. That's perseverance. And so we want to wish them the best. I'm going to try to sneak up there and check it out. Having in my own way back in the day, way back in the day, Dr. Mills, I played on the state championship basketball team out of Miami. And then at Fort Pierce Central High School had the opportunity. We had two Final Four appearances and won the state championship. The girls did. I believe it was in '86. Sophia Witherspoon was the star. She's now the coach over at Fort Pierce Central, the girls' coach. So it's a big deal, and so I just wanted to share that with the board right now, and we'll wish them our best. And hopefully, just getting there is great. It's so hard to do. And some people try their whole life to get to that point and never make it. But so we wish them the best. And we now have our representative here, Dana. I'll just call her Dana. And she's been. I want to thank her. She's been actively involved and since she's been elected up in the state with education issues, and is going to talk to us a little bit today. I think it's about the New World's Reading Initiative, House Bill 3, which I believe you're maybe one of the sponsors of. So we welcome you and turn it over.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here today. I appreciate it. And I have thoroughly enjoyed working with you guys over the past few months, just getting my feet wet. I know I've probably been a little bit of a thorn in your side too, but I'm trying to really learn as much as I can just to better serve all students of Florida. So I have House Bill 3. I am the sponsor of House Bill 3. I'm super excited about it, and it revolves around children's literacy, and I'm happy to answer any questions after I go through the bill itself. But assessments from 2018-19 show that 43% of third graders are below reading level. And the New Worlds Initiative provides hard copy books to students that have been identified as underperforming readers. So I'm just going to read this part of it. The bill requires the Department of Education or a statewide third-party organization to administer the New Worlds Reading Initiative. The administrator is responsible for creating an application process for school districts to participate, curating the books to be distributed, coordinating book delivery, and developing digital tools parents may use to help improve their children's reading skills. Participating schools, which by the way, this is an opt-in, opt-out. If this is not something that St. Lucie County finds, valuable, then you can opt out. I am a home rule girl, but hopefully you'll opt in. Participating school districts must work with local nonprofit partners to market and fundraise the initiative. So the onus is not on the school general revenue to provide the second half of the cost, because the state is going to pick up half, and then the school district / nonprofit partner initiative will pick up the other half. Participating school districts are also responsible for identifying eligible students, which are those who have a substantial reading deficiency or who are reading below grade level based on state assessments. Of course, in kindergarten, I don't think that there are the state assessments, so that would rely on the teacher. And then that would be K1, 2, third grade, we would use their test scores. Fourth and fifth grade, again, teachers or counselors are probably the best indicators for an underperforming reader. Students remain in the initiative until they are promoted to sixth grade or their parent opts out. And under the bill, books must be provided at no cost to families, with funding for the initiative shared equally by the statewide administrator and each participating school districts on a prorated basis. So that is essentially the bill, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Probably not a question.
I can tell you a little more.
All right, please do that.
So one thing that I find exciting about this bill is we want children to be excited about learning. And something that I shared on the floor recently was when I was a kid, my parents signed me up for the highlights books. I don't know if you guys got those or not. I also got Nancy Drew books, so I can solve any murder if you know of one. But but it was always exciting for me to get something in the mail that came just for me. And that in and of itself made me excited. I didn't know that it was making me excited to learn to read or do the puzzles or the word finds, but it brought excitement to me. So when a child gets a book delivered directly to them, I believe that is going to lend to a certain amount of excitement, where they're going to want to open it and start reading it. And then they're going to get a book every single month based on a genre that they choose, so something that interests them, and those genres can change as they change and grow. So it's going to be something that they're going to be more likely to want to pick up and look at and read and be engaged with because it is a topic that they enjoy. Also, it's going to help build a library, not only for them, but also for perhaps their younger siblings who have not entered school yet. And so they're going to have an opportunity to build that library for their family. And we're going to couple that with text messaging and preparation and fun activities that we'll be working with parents on so that they can become engaged too. So we're going to try to put all the tools in the toolbox to help them become better readers. So it looks like the cost of a book, and this is actually we just recently done this, so it'll be probably about $2.50 a book. And that includes the book and the delivery. Yes, and what we're hoping is that you'll partner with like local nonprofits, even Rotary clubs, different civic organizations that might want to raise money to help with this reading initiative, and then promote, library events, reading events are circled around it.
I don't have a question, but I just want to say thank you for taking an interest in education of the children. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I'm impressed.
Exciting. I'm loving what I'm doing. I'm happy to be on two education committees. I've relied heavily on the school board, particularly Debbie and Mr. Gent and Helen to guide me along the way. I was just telling Helen that I am not the expert. I am here to be an advocate for you and for our children. So I hope I can continue to lean heavily on your expertise to do what's best for our children in St. Lucie County and the state.
It's a joy for us to have you so involved and so committed to the children here and statewide, because I know your heart is big and reaches across the borders. So we appreciate so much what you're doing for us and being willing to just be involved. I know Children's Services Council is working with you on this a bit too. Are there others that have joined in that we might, we might not be aware of?
Actually, Children's Services Council, we haven't really talked much about this, although I do have a call today with statewide Children's Services Council, so I'm looking forward to speaking with them about this. What I'm working on with Children's Services Council in particular this session is level 2 background screening for summer camps, which at this time, if you go to the DCF website, there are only 6 summer camps in the state of Florida that have level 2 background screening. So it's keeping our children safe.
I know Children's Services Council has sent word out to all the organizations that they help fund too about your initiative, so I'm hopeful that there will be a good collaborative effort, because with everyone working together, it can certainly make it far-reaching, so.
We definitely live in a different world than when I grew up. Things are a little more complicated and convoluted, and I think that anything that we can do to help our children learn and to keep them safe and know that they can live in a healthy environment, that's our responsibility.
And the huge plus about this too is it gets the parents involved.
Absolutely.
And that's a component that's been sorely missing in a lot of families. So when parents feel involved in it, it really will take off. And, yeah.
Coupled with this is the ABC Learning website that I don't know if you guys are aware of. If you don't have the link, I'll send it to all of you. It's free to everybody in the state of Florida. It began in January, and it goes through the end of the year, 2021. And it's where it would normally be a subscription-based reading library. It's actually free to every child in the state of Florida through the end of the year. And it's so easy, and it's not capturing your information. It's not to come back and sell you something at a later date. It's a couple of quick questions, a little assessment on your reading. They create a library for you digitally. There's over 5,500 books in the library, and again, you can choose based on your genre, what your likes are, dislikes are. There's an audio version and a digital reading version, so kids can, again, have another resource. But I will send you guys that link.
Madam Chairwoman, Dana, thank you for coming. I think it's so important that when a state legislator, particularly this is the first time in like 16 years we've had one come, so I appreciate it. And particularly to sponsor a bill in education is really crucial. Particularly someone that represents our community, it's important that we get behind this initiative. But a couple of my, not concerns, but questions is so roughly it costs $30, and you're asking the district to fundraise for the other 15. 15 comes from the state, and 15 comes from like the school district. Now, I couldn't remember, did you say it was a certain number of kids? Like, were it level 1s and 2s? What did your bill say?
It's, excuse me, I'm so sorry.
Or is it all kids, or is it certain schools?
Kindergarten through 5th grade. Once they're out of 5th grade, then you're out of that category. And you would opt in as a school board. Not only does the school system have to opt in, but the parent has to opt in as well. And then you can opt out at any time. And then it's underperforming readers based on testing 3rd grade.
Okay, so it's underperforming, okay.
Yes.
That's what I was looking for, because it could be very expensive if it was all of them. Okay.
And then our hope is that you're going to engage with the community and, nonprofit organizations to help with that. Maybe
Sure.
people to sponsor schools in that initiative, in that arena. Because I think if we can get our community involved, they just feel a little more ownership.
Just one thing that always concerns me, not with just your bill, but just in bills in general and new stuff, is that when programs come in Tallahassee, not programs, but initiatives, or that they take money from one area that was working and put it in another pot, and just be cognizant of when you're pushing for that it's a separate funding drive. You know what I'm saying? Because we've allocated areas this one program, and then all of a sudden we just need to be able to fund a program and give it sustainability.
I understand. Every year is a tough budget year. This year in particularly is a tough budget year. Pulling out of our general revenue can be dicey, and I know that like your FTEs, those are things that you want funded fully, so absolutely very cognizant of that.
We'll get the link, and we'll get that information out through our social media and on our webpage, and then we'll group up as a team here and work on strategies with our partners, different community partners that are out there, and some of the I know some of the board members themselves are involved in other civic organizations as well, and then do a big push. And I just want to say thank you as well. before a pandemic, it was vitally needed, and now with this, it's still even more so now, so that students don't fall further behind. So I think it's a great initiative, and that, one of our local, representatives is sponsoring this bill. So I'm looking forward to the opportunities that our community will have and our students will have, and we'll work with you. And we appreciate what you were not a thorn in our side. I think anytime you're calling and asking questions
Very nice.
from the legislature, that's so important, because it's always nice. The best policies are made when you talk to those that are closest to the ground, and you've been doing that. So I appreciate that. I know there's a lot of layers up there, and I know how that works as well. But we do appreciate what you're doing and trying to support the students here in St. Lucie and across the state. So we look forward to working with you on it.
Thank you. I hope as you discuss this further, if you are in support of the bill, that next time I go before a committee, if you could write a letter of support, that would mean so much to me. But I want to make sure that you're all on board with that first. And if there's anything in the bill that you have any discrepancy on, or maybe want to add a little bit more to, then I'm happy to do that as well. Again, like you said, I have to listen to the experts. I'm representing you as a representative, so that's my intent.
Good.
All right?
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
I
you.
know it's your home week, and you've probably got a million things going on, so we really appreciate you being here. And
Absolutely.
of course, all of our power thoughts go with you as you return to Tallahassee next week and begin the full session.
I'm so excited.
Good.
I am. I kind of wish I was there this week. I didn't want to come home. I was so excited. So my dog and my husband missed me, so I needed to.
And you
But
miss them as well, we know.
y'all have a great rest of your day. Thanks for letting me participate. Please reach out anytime. I will make myself available, and I appreciate your expertise and
Well,
good thoughts.
You can count on that letter of support being there for you.
Thank you. And I need to get with you about those letters as
Yeah.
well. Thank you.
All right. You too, take care.
Our next presentation is going to be Bill Tomlinson, and he's going to, you all have the handout in front of you, and Bill is going to talk to us about our programs that we have here, kind of a comprehensive look, really, of our mental health and social SEL needs of our students here, and what we're doing in the county. And you should have received it yesterday. I hope everybody got it emailed to you, the presentation yesterday afternoon, and have a chance to look at that. And we'll try to do that for a future workshop, so you have something to take a look at. There may be some minor tweaks between when we come to the meeting and what you receive, but we would point that out. So I appreciate Mr. Tomlinson being here, and Bill, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Gent, thank you so much for the opportunity this morning to speak to you about what we're doing in the district to meet the mental health and social and emotional needs of the children enrolled here. I have to preface this by saying that I'm probably one of the luckiest people, because I have a dynamic team that I work with in my division. In student services, headed up by Heather Clark, and we have Dr. Michelle Gillard as our coordinator of mental health, Stacy Cason, our program specialist for student services, and all of the number of school psychologists and social workers and nurses and attendance folks and others that we have working in that department. And then in our social and emotional learning department, which is very new to the district, that's headed up by Tracy Wilkie, our director, Christina Coppola, Cassie Chang, and Blondine Newman are the members of that department. And then I also oversee exceptional student education, headed up by Donna Gill. And we have a variety of program specialists, number of program specialists and behavior analysts and other medical professionals, occupational therapists, physical therapists, and other educational service providers working in that division. And then we also have the discretionary projects of SEDNet and Fiddlers. So quite a large division, and what we're doing is trying to combine the work and collaborate more effectively within our departments so that we can meet all of the needs of the students and the families in this community, but also work across other departments. We spend a lot of time working with Dr. Wild in curriculum and learning and professional development to ensure that we are really working collaboratively when we're trying to meet the needs of our students, and with other departments as well. Terrence in ITS, it's amazing the support that we're given. The work that we do when we're talking about mental health and when we're talking about social and emotional learning lines up directly with the pillars that support the work of St. Lucie Public Schools, and primarily under the safe and caring piece of this. It's important to understand that we also link this directly to the superintendent's priorities, and goal 2 and goal 3, to provide a safe and healthy learning environment for employees and students, and in goal 3, to strengthen the delivery of services as we focus on social and emotional well-being and the mental health needs of children. This is becoming very, very important on what we do to address the needs of children. There's been huge focus that has been placed on this since what happened at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Fort Lauderdale 3 years ago this month. And I remind the board that our team of school psychologists and social workers were some of the very first responders that went there to provide mental health support when that occurred. The national attention on the mental health needs of all children and youth, and the attention that is really being paid to this now because of the global pandemic and what we're doing. In Florida, we've seen massive legislative changes to the requirements addressing mental health in Florida schools. Senate Bill 7030 was one of the forefront in this, which provided the mental health allocation as part of the FEFP. And then the voters in this district, the wise voters that we have that took mental health into consideration and said we need to see support in our school system for mental health as well. And then the research that we've seen out of Castle and other places that indicates that social and emotional learning has such positive outcomes for students and adults, and then the mental health education that we're really paying close attention to, and how the outcomes can change when it comes to kids that may be contemplating suicide, bullying that occurs, cyberbullying that is going on, and the use of opioids or alcohol. When we started our work, we didn't start it just haphazardly by saying we're going to start focusing on mental health or we're going to start focusing on social and emotional learning. We did some data analysis, and we did see that there was an uptick in the number of Baker Acts that were occurring and those that were occurring on the campuses. We don't always know the exact number of Baker Acts that occur because many of them occur in the community, and the data that we get from our Baker Act facilities, we have to really disaggregate that data to look to see how many of those are actually kids that are attending our schools. We saw increases in law enforcement incidences that were taking place, the discipline offenses or challenges with the number of referrals that some children were getting, and disproportionality in students in the discipline offenses. And this is one of the things that's really true to our heart in the work that we do with children with disabilities to ensure that we are reducing any disproportionality as it occurs. And also absenteeism and truancy. If children are not in school, they are not benefiting from the educational process, and we can't engage them if they're not here with us. Part of Senate Bill 7030 required us to develop a comprehensive mental health plan for our district. And I am proud to say that this, again, was a very huge collaborative effort across disciplines, across departments. We worked with Dr. Wild's department and brought in individuals to really address what it is that we're doing in a tiered system of supports. We're looking at our mental health collaborative partners and the way in which we engage them, what we do within our community to bring other supports into the school system, and how we outline that continuum of mental health services all the way back down to the classroom on a school campus. I did include here a link for you. Our mental health plan must be posted on the Florida Department of Education website, and we are required to update that and provide it to the Department of Education prior to August 1st of every school year. So we're constantly placing revisions into this mental health plan to ensure that we're capturing everything that we're doing and that it is beneficial, that it's not just a bunch of words on paper, but it's actually something that benefits the children. When we developed that plan, we looked first at what we would use as guiding principles. We knew that if we were going to make a difference, we had to have early identification and intervention. And I want to take that even a step further. Prior to intervention, we really wanted to concentrate more heavily on prevention and what we could do for children early on to strengthen the delivery of all of the services that we were providing for social and emotional learning and for mental health. But we needed to be intentional and we needed to be deliberate in the instruction that we were going to provide, and then provide all of those supports and services that we were going to give to children and their families. Florida had already developed a comprehensive system of supports, and we used this tiered system as we began working on ours. And you've seen us as we've talked about a tiered system of supports in the past. Tier 1 is the foundation. This is what we're doing for prevention across the board for all children. And what research tells us is about 80% of all children in school will respond to what happens at Tier 1. But at Tier 2, there will be about 15% of children that will need additional support in school. And that 15% of kids need more than just the classroom teacher working with them. They may need assistance from the certified school counselors on campus. They may need assistance from social workers, from school psychologists. And then at the top tier of that, Tier 3, there will be about 5% of children that absolutely have to have individualized support. Those are kids that we're going to see that would have individual behavioral plans that are written specifically to target the function of that behavior, what's maintaining what they're doing over time, and how that we correct and intervene with that. This could also involve individualized services from mental health providers and wraparound services that come into the home. When we looked at this multi-tiered system of support, we designed each one of our tiers in Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 to align with that, and also making sure that at that Tier 1 preventive level, we were doing everything that we could possibly do to really support what goes on for the general education teacher. In that mental health collaborative, when we talk about what we needed to happen at the foundation of this, we knew that it was important to bring in community partners. And we were lucky because we already had a well-established mental health collaborative in this district. And we have expanded the work that we're doing. We are now bringing mental health counselors from our collaborative onto our campuses. We have, all of our schools actually have access to a mental health counselor from the collaborative if needed. We are really fine-tuning and streamlining the referrals that go out to these agencies so that they are truly beneficial referrals and that we're not just bypassing the school counselor and the social worker and the school psychologist first and sending them directly to an agency. When we were given the mental health allocation, it did allow us to have opportunity to employ additional people that would be able to provide this support. We used these funds to hire additional social workers. We have advertised for more school psychologists. It's one of the hardest groups to fill, and when you have vacancies, we've lost 3 this year already that have had to relocate due to COVID or job opportunities for their spouses. And we are continually advertising and interviewing and trying to recruit to fill all of those positions. We did hire 4 actual full-time mental health counselors, and we have added 6 certified school guidance counselors throughout the district out of the mental health allocation. The voter referendum gave us additional funds to address mental health, and we were able to hire 6 more social workers, so we now have 20 social workers working in this district. We have 19 school psychologists. We have 4 school-based behavioral intervention teachers in some of our high-need schools, and we added 3 more certified school counselors for a total of 9 new ones over the last 2 years, and 9 behavior technicians. So we're putting that to use in personnel that really can work and intervene for children. When we look at how we address those needs, when we're looking at the tiered system of support, we really target the interventions. We work on individual and small group counseling, and then again, when we get up to tier 3, we're looking at more individualized services for students. That mental health support that has been provided this year alone, there were 300 students so far that have been identified as needing a mental health intervention by small group counseling, by social workers or mental health counselors at dedicated schools. 183 additional students that we have identified that needed individualized counseling from a mental health counselor or a school psychologist. And then we have 461 additional students that we're following along with, and those that may have been in the process previously but still need some level of guidance and support. So the numbers are there. They show the work that is being done by the support staff that is working in our school. When I spoke just a moment ago, I talked about the prevention prior to intervention. And that's so much of what Tier 1 is all about, really being preventive. And that's where we saw that the need to really look at social and emotional learning, our positive behavioral interventions and supports, the mental health education that is required by Florida School Board rule, how that we really incorporate classroom management, and we're using the model out of Safe Schools for CHAMPS. The district already was identified as a Kids at Hope district, and we have Kids at Hope schools. Our single school culture and school climate to really focus on improving attendance, to address signs of suicide at Tier 1, and then we have student assistance programs from our collaborative with New Horizons, Youth Mental Health First Aid, which is required by Florida statute for all employees, Equality Florida, so that we're absolutely paying attention to our lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer questioning students, and equitable discipline practices for all children. We're always proud to highlight what we're doing in our discretionary project with the University of South Florida for Florida PBIS. We have 25 model schools. Those were recognized at the board meeting just a couple months ago. And even though the criteria continues to get more and more difficult to become a model school, we've still been able to maintain a large portion of our schools at model school status. We are required by Florida statute to train every single employee that works in the district on youth mental health first aid. It is an awareness of how to recognize signs and symptoms of mental health. It's a 6-hour course. It is in person, so we have to really have small groups when we're doing the training now, but we are at 1,750 employees and other community partners that have already been trained in this, and we're lucky that we've been able to continue to get more individuals trained through the National Council on Behavioral Health as youth mental health first aid trainers. Our signs of suicide work that we continue to do, we're in the 4th year of that, and we focus on all 9th grade students. This year, we even did this with my school students as well. The teachers work collaboratively with their certified school counselors on campuses, the social worker and the school psychologist to provide the instruction, and the school social workers and student services staff, such as school psychologists, follow up with children who at the end of the presentation give an exit slip and indicate that they would like to talk to a counselor. So this year there were 398 of those students that responded that they would like to further the discussion with a counselor. Last year, there was a change in legislation that required us to really concentrate on a suicide screener. And to do this, all of our certified school counselors, social workers, school psychologists have all been trained on the Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale. This takes about 10 to 20 minutes to complete, and it requires us to do that and then seek the mobile crisis unit before we seek law enforcement, so that there could be greater intervention on the campus prior to actually removing that student and ending up in what may be a Baker Act. Out of the 155 risk assessments that have taken place this year, 12 of those have resulted in Baker Act from a school campus. And then we were required also to incorporate mental and emotional health education as part of Florida School Board rule. And this is grades 6 through 12. There's a requirement for 5 hours of instruction, and it must build on each other every year so that kids are not getting the same instruction over and over. Again, we worked through curriculum and learning with Dr. Wild's department and our partners in SEDNet, the Severely Emotionally Disabled Network, in order to purchase Suite 360, which is a technological tool software that can be utilized to meet this component of the law. So we're continuing to work on our mental health initiative. Upcoming in May, you'll see a campaign about mental health, and we'll bring that more to your attention as we get closer to the month of May. I did want to, just while we're talking very briefly, to tell you that we have also entered into an agreement, one of 30 schools in the school systems in the state that have entered into this tobacco and nicotine student citation course. Normally, children are suspended from out of school if they are in possession of tobacco or using tobacco, or if they're vaping a tobacco product. And most often, kids would get somewhere in the neighborhood of about 3 days of out-of-school suspension. The Florida Department of Health worked with Palm Beach County Schools and created this citation course that could be used to replace the out-of-school suspension. We can now hold the students' days of out-of-school in abeyance, give them an opportunity to take this course. If they take the course and they complete it, then they do not have to end up being suspended from school. This course, we've had really good feedback actually from the students that have taken this course since we implemented that this year. We only implemented in January, and we have had 21 students to date that have completed it at an 80.7 completion rate. And when we look at the days, if you look at those 21 kids that would have normally been suspended for about 3 days each, we've returned 63 days of instruction back to that group of kids that would have normally been lost if they were outside of the school setting. So everything we can do again in the prevention. 2 years ago, I brought forward to you a request of the board to allow us to look at substance abuse education as an intervention for kids that had a first-time offense for marijuana use. And we continue to this date with that program. We've had more than 50 students now that have successfully completed the 6-hour requirement or 6-session course that we offer, and that is taught by our school social workers. The first course that the students attend, they have to attend this with their parents. So they have to come and bring the parents with them to the course. As part of the collaborative that we have with New Horizons of the Treasure Coast, they provide us 12 full-time student assistance prevention specialists on our campuses, and they work in our 5th grade units to do Too Good for Drugs, so that we have that substance abuse prevention there at that grade level. And then through our collaborative arrangement with Drug Abuse Treatment Association, they provide 11 counselors across the district that focuses on drug abuse prevention for kids in these high schools and K-8 schools and some of our middle schools. And those kids that go beyond needs of prevention that may have already had a substance abuse issue, they will do intervention services for them as well. Now I want to take you in just very briefly into social and emotional learning. We were able to work with our department federal programs to look at Title IV, the Student Support and Academic Enrichment Grant, and take an opportunity to see how that we could improve student conditions for learning. And that allowed us to create a Tier 1 program for social and emotional learning. And we came to the board with that idea of having a department for social and emotional learning. We started out first with just hiring the specialist, then we hired a director, and now we have a parent educator. And we've been implementing this program, intentionally implementing this program at Tier 1 in our schools. Everything we do is evidence-based. We're making absolutely sure that the alignment is there, that this is integrated into the learning process, but the data is clear and the research is clear as to why we want to do social and emotional learning. And this is directly from the Collaborative for Academic and Social and Emotional Learning website. Their research indicates that this leads to academic outcomes and improvement for students. The impact is long-term and global. There's 11-to-1 return on the investment. For every dollar spent, there's $11 in return. It reduces long-term outcomes of poverty, economic mobility, and improves lifetime outcomes for children into adulthood, reducing also the likelihood of poverty. This is just a different look, but one of the greatest components of this from research is that students who participate in social and emotional learning activities have demonstrated an 11% academic gain. So we're very proud of the work that our department is doing. And we focus on these core competencies: self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. And we implemented this across the board in order to get to full integration within the curriculum. We had to start with awareness. We didn't want to shove this on everybody and tell them this is what you're required to do. We wanted this to be something that people wanted to incorporate into their curriculum and into their daily schedule. And we've been working to build capacity over time. There's been an ongoing task force. We continue with the cohort. Tracy and her team are continuously working to develop more and more professional development opportunities. Direct instruction of social and emotional learning. We have the explicit curriculum, integrated instruction, and the social and school climate, or the school climate and culture for improvement. And that's our major focus on social and emotional learning. We did adopt 3 curricula that were already evidence-based. At pre-K through 5th grade, we're using Sanford Harmony. At 6th through 8th grade, we're using the Lions Quest curriculum. And in the high school program, we use School Connect. Just an example of some of the work: they have an ongoing SEL committee. They publish a newsletter every month. They have a monthly theme that schools work under, and they have their own Facebook and Twitter page. They have now been working to develop a statewide cohort, and other school districts are meeting with them monthly. Our SEL team has presented already at a national conference virtually, and they present again next month at the Youth at Risk conference as well. Our focus, again, on emotional regulation, social awareness, teacher and student relationships, school climate, and a sense of belonging. And all of these are intentional with the circle practice, the adopted curriculum, what we're doing for modeling and integration, and again, our intentionality as we do this. We also wanted to give students an opportunity to have voice, so we have incorporated the Panorama Student Survey, which allows children to respond back about the school climate, about teaching and learning, about relationships and the sense of belonging. There are 7 topics that are measured under that. We do the survey twice a year. We do it in the fall, and then we do it again in the spring. And once we get the results back from that, we identify the things that we're improving on and the things that we need to continue to work on. We were glad to see this year in our fall survey that social awareness was up by 9% in some of our schools and connected directly to what we're doing with circle practice, and that was an anticipated outcome. Teacher relationships was up by 21% in some of our schools. And again, this teachers showing and taking an interest in children, the welcoming practices that go on every day. And the school climate up by 16%, and these are connected to intentional adult practices. We do need to work on, in the secondary school, on the student and teacher relationships and the connectedness to school, and we expected somewhat of a decline in that because of having virtual and not having the activities that bring about so much connection for kids when they're in school. And that's an area that even though there was a decrease, it wasn't a substantial decrease, but we know that we need to continue to work on that. And as we move into this more and more preventive measures within the pandemic, our hope is that things will continue to get better. The data doesn't do us any good unless people use the data to make change. And that's what the principals of the schools and their administrative teams do. They review all of this data. They're given the opportunity to take it, use it to make change. We've just recently incorporated at all of our levels from pre-kindergarten through 12th grade another technology-based program called Ripple Effects, and this is allowing us to really concentrate on trauma-informed practices and behavioral intervention. And our number one goal is to reduce the number of children being suspended outside of school, but help them to learn from the mistake, what happened, to have opportunities for us to reteach that behavior and to offer replacement behaviors. And our parent educator and our SEL team are also working on nights of family learning to incorporate parents into the process to establish that family-school connection. I know this was an awful lot of information provided to you. The number one goal with all of this is to continue to improve those outcomes for all children. I'll entertain questions if you have any. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
If I could, I've got a lot of questions.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to call you and come in and see you. Just how important this is. I remember a year ago, I'm new, so you have to give me a little wee wait.
That's okay.
I remember speaking to a current board member when I was trying to make decisions, and that lady said that when we talked about education and everything, I don't think she's going to mind, Mrs. Mills, said that her center about education was to educate the entire student, everything about it. And this is a big part, because I don't think you can go anywhere without taking care of these outside things that happen to children. I mean, there's so many things, drugs, Asperger's, bullying, I mean, it goes on, and I don't know if you remember that conversation, but I was impressed with that, and I feel the same way. I think everyone does. And this is so important. But I had a couple, just 3 quick questions. And I have many, and again, I'm going to give you a call if you don't mind, get your card and come
Absolutely,
in.
I welcome that at any one time.
There's a couple of things. I was going to wait a couple of months till I was in office for a while, but you hired, according to one of your slides here, you fired 41 people altogether, and half of those were hired from the referendum money. Is that, did I do my math correctly?
We have hired from the referendum money. We've hired 6 social workers from the referendum dollars. We've hired the 4 behavioral intervention. We've hired the
3 counselors and 9 behavioral technicians.
The 3 certified school counselors, or called guidance
And
counselors.
that's going to go away in 2 years, Mr. Gent, right? We wouldn't have that money if we don't get another referendum, or that
Correct.
money would go away. So half, just make it known that half of that came from referendum money. Another question, this goes to implementation. I mean, this is all good stuff and everything, but we used to have a program that I was very involved in years ago called the DARE program, where the police force went in, and it was just an excellent program. I don't know if anyone else, Troy, I'm sure, before you, yeah. I'm sure you were a graduate. Anyhow, the DARE program was just incredible. I mean, right into the schools, officer friendly, the whole deal. You remember that, Debbie, I'm sure. And that program was never really replaced. And then you have a program here of substance abuse education, and I won't take too much more of your time, about the students and how they can. Is this a mandatory class that we have now? Do we make fifth graders? Because you're targeting the right grade. That fifth grade is the grade.
Fifth grade, it is in Florida statute that fifth grade has to have the instruction in drug abuse education. So we do Too Good for Drugs for every fifth grade student that we have in the district.
So every fifth grade student goes through this
Yes.
in the entire
Right.
county, okay? And how long is that? Is it a 2-week thing, 1 week? Who do we bring in? Do we bring in
We have
police
counselors.
officers, or is it just the people that we have?
These are counselors. They're called student assistance counselors that are provided to us through New Horizons of the Treasure Coast. And they work within the semester. They work in a time frame established with the teacher to highlight all of the components of drug abuse education within the time that is allotted. Could be from 4 weeks to 8 weeks over time that they're covering this throughout the course of the semester. And they work to build this into the established standards so that they're following the standards that are established for the kids in their curriculum.
So how many hours of instruction, or how long would a course like that, how much input do we do this? We do this for 2 weeks? We do this over
We
a
can
month?
do it throughout the full semester for children.
Can you explain a little bit more?
Yeah, they
What do you mean
work.
throughout the school? So once a week, once a month?
Yeah, once a week. They're working in the classroom once a week, sometimes more, all depending upon what the element that they're specifically targeting. So they could be in there, whatever the schedule will allow them to be. They set that program up front with the classroom teacher as to how often they're going to be in the classroom with them.
And the 41 people that we were talking about, where are these people based? Where do they work out of? They're not working out of our building here. Where would they be working out of?
I want to go back and look at
Or
your.
are they on the road constantly, or, you know?
They are on the road constantly. The people that we have hired out of the mental health referendum, and also those individuals that have been hired out of the mental health allocation are all school-based individuals. Our school social workers, our school psychologists, they're all assigned to different schools. Each person has a caseload, and then the certified school counselors are actually in schools as guidance counselors. We now call them certified school counselors that replace the name guidance counselor. That's by Florida statute. And the mental health counselors that we have a mental health counselor at Dale Caston's Upper School on 11th Street. We have a mental health counselor at the Garden City location. We have one at Performance-Based Diploma Program, and we have a floating one out of the district office that takes referrals and goes into separate schools.
Do you have law enforcement involved in this? Do law enforcement people come into the schools on this program and speak to the kids from Sheriff's Department or City Police?
Law enforcement involvement in the school is usually collaborated with the school administrator on specific topics that they may want to discuss. It's not an actual part that we do through our agreement with law enforcement. They don't come in and do the drug abuse education any longer or substance abuse education.
Yeah, I'm going to drop that one because that one needs to be.
They do presentations to the students. They're in the schools full-time,
Yeah.
and that's part of it.
I know we have our resource officers and things, but like the DARE program, I mean, those kids got to know the police officers and law enforcement, and it was We don't have that anymore, and I think that's something that we never should have got away from, but, which can be built into this program, but I'm not the expert, you are.
Part of it, Mr. Kelly, if I could interject here, we needed to go to something that was evidence-based and research-based, and the DARE program was not. So
Okay.
thus the shift to this with our student assistance folks from New Horizons. So the thrust with having the SROs on campus now is where that real relationship is being built between law enforcement and students on campus, not designated as a specific program, though.
Yeah.
Because it was, to get this funding for a lot of these, we have to have evidence-based programs to present.
We see the benefit from everything that law enforcement does, is becoming a part of the school system. But going back to what Mrs. Hawley had said, is the programs that they were offering at that point in time were not considered to be evidence-based or research-based programs. We have a requirement that that is what we incorporate into the instruction within the school. And I don't want to discount the value of what they brought or what they still bring, because they do. They are an integral part of what goes on the school campus every single day.
Yeah, well, I won't get into that. Everybody has different opinions, and I think it was a fabulous program, and was involved for many years in that, and I really was surprised that that program went away. And I heard those arguments, and I heard the last thing, and I'll stop. We have a lot of collaboration. You list everyone here. Mental health education, Kids at Hope, single choice culture. I guess there's about 10 collaboratives that we use, that we go to with, I lost the page, son of a gun. Are these collaboratives, is that done with any money from us? Do we have to?
The work that is done, for example, through New Horizons of the Treasure Coast.
Yeah, New Horizons, that type of thing, yes.
That's funded out of a grant through Children's Services Council.
Okay,
So it doesn't cost us any money. That is work that is a true benefit to us by having those resource personnel come on our campus and work with us, just like what we do through Drug Abuse Treatment Association by having the Project Success Counselors. Again, that's an evidence-based program. They come, they work, they provide the support and ongoing continuation with the schools to see and work with other children. It's a phenomenal collaboration and effort, and the benefits are tremendous for the school system, what we're able to get when we have these other agencies working with us.
it's just good to know where the money's coming from, so these programs stay. If the money isn't there, they're not gonna stay. Thank you for your time, and
You're more than
I will
welcome.
be calling you.
Absolutely, I
Thank you.
welcome that.
Yeah, and Mrs. Mills, once again, I don't know if you know that, but you were a big influence on me a year ago. I never told you that, but you were. Thank you.
Outside community speakers to come in and speak, from different career sources. And even though the program might not have been data-based, we all agree how important it is for us to have people, not just police department, but people from all types of walks of life within the community. We have something that we began a few years back called the Speakers Bureau. And I think almost every one of the board members have done it, and administration has gone in, and people throughout the community. I'm a big believer in that we all educate our children, and when we have strong community support coming in and being speakers and speaking into children's lives and sharing their careers, but not just their careers, their stories, how powerful that is in influencing our young people to be the best they can be. So, and we were traveling to schools, but that has not been happening, of course, due to COVID, and even previously before COVID. It was a large undertaking, but it would be worth the focus for us as a district to really get out and bring the community in as special speakers, because the kids absolutely, you can hear a pin drop, so we know that it's working.
Yes.
When you get the kids' attention just by sharing your story, it's working. Something's happening there. And so, yeah, I get what you're saying, and hopefully we will be able to make sure that that's more stronger in the future, that we do have that, our kids do have that opportunity to hear from a wide variety of people that can speak into their lives.
The authentic representation of actually living it, working, and being able to provide those experiences to children aligns directly with our social emotional practice.
And Dr. Mills knows what I'm talking about. When I was in school 100 years ago, we just pushed all of this aside. There was no Asperger's, there was no bullying, and if somebody got bullied, his father just told him, you know, get in there, you know, just fight back, you know. There was none. This was all pushed aside, and I'm just glad to see that this is something that's being addressed, and that, you know, we all, I'm sure everyone here realizes that, but it was something that I really wanted to get into, especially when that DARE program went away. That just bothered me, but I'm glad to see that something else is being implemented. I just hope it's as good. It probably is, but thank you.
Sure.
Do we have anything, are we thinking ahead how we're going to fund this, or are we just hoping that, you know, we'll have another referendum?
I'll answer that. We will talk to the board, but we would hope that we would go back to the voters. We are very transparent with that to see the benefits of this, and so we would hope that the voters would see that as well, with the teacher salaries, with the mental health piece, with the officers on campus, that our voters would see the value as they did before, with 66% of registered the voters that came out to vote for that. So I don't, they've all passed across the rest of the state of Florida, so it would be a campaign to go out and to inform the public of the successes. We've just met with the referendum committee about 2 to 3 weeks ago. You're all's representatives on that. It's on the webpage as well for transparency. All this information is there to continue to do that. So that would be the goal, is that the voters see the benefits of that, and that this would be supported again. And I'm pretty sure that that's the consensus of our board members to go forward with that. So I take the positive aspect of it is, you know, it's the continuation. And it would be devastating to us if we, not only in this arena, but in many other arenas, if we weren't able to continue the referendum. And that would come forward next year, 2022.
Thank you so much for the opportunity this morning.
I know that Bill didn't bring his team down because of you know, keeping small groups, but we have a gem here, and he's got about how many more months?
491 days.
So
Calendar days, but who's counting?
and Bill and his department, this is tough work, and it's a different day and time than when we were in, and what Bill and his team has been able to provide, he's recognized as a leader across the state, and everyone in here knows the value of Bill. And I tease him, I call him the conscience of the school district, and he always has that soft, just what you saw here today. But what he does behind the scenes and with his staff is just remarkable, and the benefits of our students, to the students and our teachers and staff members, to all of us. You know, there's no words to describe that and what he's been able to accomplish. And so I just want to publicly say that, and hopefully, I was almost going to say let's get the whole crew to come in here, but they'd fill the room up and then we would mess up all of our social protocols. But they have done a remarkable job in the county, and I know they'll continue to do that, and I just wanted to, that's under his leadership, so I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you so much. And it is a wonderful, remarkable team. I'm very pleased. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Tomlinson. Any other items?
That concludes our formal presentations this morning.
Well, I encourage all of us to take this and really digest, because there's a lot of information here, and it's constantly evolving and staying current, but it was a great presentation, Mr. Tomlinson, and thank you and your staff for all of us, please. Okay, we have no other business then to come before us. Oh, Ms. Richardson?
I have a question. Well, yes, I do have a question. As you know, we're celebrating African American History Month, and so I do have some questions, or a question, as to where we are. We just got this wonderful presentation about social and emotional learning, and one of the words we used was intentional. That word kept coming up, intentional. So where are we with intentionally teaching African American history in our public school? I'm new, so for a lot of you it's probably refreshing. So, if somebody could just tell me what's the curriculum and.
Dr. Wild, already jumping to it, I see.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you for your question, Mrs. Richardson.
Thank you.
I did a presentation to the board prior to our new board members joining us not too long ago about our entire curriculum, and I would be happy to do that presentation again with some updates. We have a very intentional curriculum. In fact, we have it outlined by grade level in every single grade, and it is throughout the entire year. It is not just for 1 month, but it is spread out throughout the entire year with a heavy focus, of course, in our social studies classes, but also in our English language arts classes. It's an integrated curriculum so that the students see it in more than one place. So it's dispersed throughout their K through 12 experience. And that is in addition to anything special we do to celebrate African American month in the month of February, as well as the elective courses that students can take that are specific to African American history.
Elective courses, and what grades would those elective courses be in?
So the elective courses are only available in the course code directory for the state of Florida for the high school level. So they are in the high school social studies curriculum. It's African American history. There's a half credit option, a full credit option, and an honors option. Right now, we have students enrolled in those classes in 3 of our high schools, and all of our high schools are going to do a push to have the classes enrolled in next year. So whether or not the class makes any class at all is based on how many students select the class. So we will be doing a push for every high school to try to have the class make next year, but right now 3 of our high schools have students enrolled.
I'm reading the National African American History Month, February 2021, and it says that in 1994 that this legislature was passed and ensuring that African American history content is taught in school. So is it something that's taught intentionally? When I say intentionally, is it, you said there are some electives, but, and it's taught, it's infused in the other subjects, but is there some accountability there, aspects to, it's not just, do you want to teach it, or, are we going to teach it, but that it is being taught on a regular basis and not just randomly and every day or whenever the opportunity comes up.
Yes, absolutely. It is absolutely intentional. It is not left up to anybody. It is actually integrated within our curriculum, within our course materials, within our scope and sequence. So I can tell you what month it is supposed to be taught in every single grade level. I have that already outlined. We have built it in so that the teachers are aware of when it is supposed to be taught, very intentionally. You are correct, that is in statute. And as a matter of fact, Florida is one of few districts that is recognized as a district of distinction when it comes to African American curriculum. I can share more details with you about that, but we do have it intentionally outlined, not just when somebody decides to do it. It is not a matter of choice.
And as I move around the community, there's a disconnect And I think that's where the accountability, where Ms. Jennifer Richardson may be coming from, the accountability of the data, of knowing the surveys from our students, things that would reflect that it is actually being done within the classroom, because the disconnect is, and we've been asking quite a few students, and they're saying we don't get anything other than slavery. Something's wrong with that. So we need to revisit that, and I'd like to be able to sit at the table with yourself and Ms. Richardson and discuss that in more detail.
Sure, and we can dig specifically into exactly where it is integrated, what materials are used, what the topic is in each grade level.
More accountability, yes, ma'am.
And when the door of opportunity opens, I'm going to walk in this. This is the month that we're celebrating it, so I think this is an awesome time to be talking about this. But you know that that maybe teachers are asked, you know, do they want to teach this subject?
They're not asked that.
You know,
No, ma'am.
so
No, ma'am, they're not asked if they want to teach it. I want to be very clear about that. It is in their curriculum. When administrators do walkthrough about any content that is in our curriculum for any subject area at all, the administrator does a walkthrough. They know what is supposed to be taught on any given day, and the administrators are the ones that hold the teachers accountable for the content. There isn't an additional assessment specific to African American history. As a matter of fact, social studies only has a couple assessments. They have the 7th grade civics, and in high school, the U.S. history. So there isn't accountability in the form of a state test. There are some questions related to the curriculum on some of our unit assessments, but the accountability is in the form of the administrator monitoring the instruction that is happening in all classrooms, all grades, all content areas. And that does include the content specific to African American history.
Not to beat a dead horse, but I really want to make sure that I'm understanding, because when I asked, and I did a mini survey, when I say African American history, what comes to mind? Like Dr. Mills says, you know, it's all based in slavery, or you know, riots, or and that is a part of the history, but that is not the history of African Americans. So again, I would like to be able to sit with you and to see exactly what the curriculum is, because if that's all that's there, then we need to add. There is so much richness to I'm a wonderful, beautiful chocolate-colored woman, and I want for this richness to be poured into our children. Now, every time I ask about, let's say, or the areas that are not, and this you know goes along with what I'm saying, and social and emotional learning is about like our underperforming schools. Right now they are in the North Fort County, and and you know why can't we do this? Why? You know, I get money. It all boils down to money. We don't have the funds to do this. We don't have the funds. Well, if we don't have funds, I am, you know, and I'm sure you're doing this, but I'm just going to throw it out there in an effort to be transparent, because I think transparency is very necessary, is that if we don't have money, then let's use what we have in our hands. We can, when I was growing up, my mother used to say to me, a mind is a terrible thing to waste, you know, so let us engage the minds of our students. Let us, and I'm talking about North Fort Pierce. Right. We don't need money. Well, we do, but we don't have it. So let's use what we have. We are teachers, we are educators, we are, you know, that's what we are here to do, educate our kids. So let us use what we have, words. You know, let's start using the African American, because we have a lot, that's the population. Let's start to empower our children with words. Let's use this history, this rich history, to empower our kids. You know, we can teach them everything else, but let us use an emphasis on, you know, well, if they can do this, then I can. And start, you know, I mean, I'm sure you're doing this, but I'm just throwing it out there, you know, to say that instead of being more intentional where it's necessary, if we don't have money, let's use that. Let's do something, because if we don't change what we're doing or add something else to what we're doing, then we're going to get the same result. And that's not why we're educated, but why we are here as educators, or even on the board, or superintendent, whatever. You know, we have to look outside of the box. That's what I'm saying. And again, probably you are doing it, but in an effort to be transparent, in an effort for me to say that Jennifer Richardson said so, that it's all in the open, you know, so we can come back and look at this again another time, you know, once we, you know, because this is something that this conversation needs to continue. We need to do it until we get it, until all our children are equitable.
Yes, ma'am, and thank you for that. I know Mr. Gent has already asked me to do a presentation on our turnaround schools, which is what you're referring to, our schools that are in turnaround or recently out of turnaround. We have had a lot of great successes there, and we have a lot of work yet to do. And so I am prepared to come and present on that topic as well, including the topic of the money and the extra funding that they get to do the extra things that we do at those schools. So I'm happy to come and go into detail with you on that topic as well. Thank you.
What I'd like to talk about too is, I mean, we come to the workshops and we hear all these grand things that we're doing. And, you know, we're moving right along, but we also need to address some of the things that are not working, that we need to work on, or whatever it is. I'd rather have open conversations than to have, these, I won't call them sidebar conversations, so that everybody is on the same page, that we're all saying the same thing and we're all working towards the same goal. You know, and I think that just an open conversation like we're having right now, you know, I'm getting it, and all our board members are hearing what you're saying. I'm sorry I didn't hear your other presentation, and I'll go back and look at the archives and listen to it. You know, but
We'll update it.
I think that we need to have open, transparent conversations about all of these elephants that are in the room and all of these things that, you know, we don't want to talk about, or, you know, we think that we don't, you know, hush, hush. I want to have open, because our constituents needs to know exactly what is going on in their schools. I asked children, again, doing my little mini survey, have you been taught African American history? Or what do you know about African American history? Oh, they don't even know that they're being taught about it outside of slavery. You know, not good enough. We need to.
Until the students are selecting the course with that title, it's not announced that that's what they're doing. It's integrated into their history rather than labeled. So we might have some work to do to make the students understand that is what they're learning. In terms of turnaround, I agree with you. A big part of our process is identifying what isn't working and making changes. And that is actually part of our formal process. Through regular meetings, regular progress monitoring. In fact, in some schools with the state there as our partner as well, we are looking in every single classroom at every single child to see what is working and what is not working. So you're absolutely right. It's not a matter of just celebrating the positive. It is addressing the needs as well.
And not just celebrating the positive in the month of February. Did you know, just a little trivia, that Onesimus, do you know who Onesimus is? He is an African slave that actually taught a Puritan minister how to inoculation in America. And when I read it, he told him how to graft, you know, whatever, how to do the inoculation. And I was like, wow, you know, I was proud as a peacock, you know, and that's what I'm saying for our kids. You know, if they knew some of these things, you know, it'll change their mindset. We are transformed by the renewing of our minds. I can't say it enough. Let's reach them where they're at with what we have. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, and I so appreciate the presentation, Bill, that you did today, because it's all about that whole education and dealing with these aspects that are so necessary. We have been closing the gap between the subgroups. But as I made mention when Dr. Prince did his presentation, the gap is still too wide for me, you know, among the African-American male and female. They're the lowest performing overall with all subgroups. Bringing that aspect to ensure that they hear about their history, not just slavery, but their whole history, all the inventors and all of the political people and all of the doctors and all of the, you know, scientists, et cetera. Teachers, it's like bringing in speakers where they can hear other people's lives, and it will motivate them to become more aggressive and self-motivation for their own education and their own buy-in. So I think that may be where we made that gap, you can see that gap, Dr. Prince, close up even quicker if we really make sure that that's happening, not just for the African-American child, but for all of our children. Because all of our children need to see each race in a positive place. And it can encourage all of our children when they find out that others have gone through horrible situations and have been able to excel and move forward. So that part is what we want to become stronger with so that our children can perform better. And that may be the missing link because you're doing everything else. We're doing everything else. And we have made great strides, but we still have something that's not quite there that we want to bring up to help with the closure. So that's why I said maybe we could talk with you later, you know, something that we can do, because there's always room for improvement, and it's all about making sure that the whole child is educated, because then we become better people.
I think that, Dr. Mills, the way you just worded that is so important, that we look at what we've accomplished and we look at the successes that we have achieved. Have we arrived? Absolutely not. The curriculum itself, particularly we can talk about African American curriculum, the issues of slavery. The children need to know that they're descendants of kings and queens. They need to see the positive side of that, and I hear that, and that's a major focus. Since I've been on the school board, or in this school district for almost 6 years in this school board, we've never shied away from controversy. We talk about it, we confront it. It's called being good to great. You confront the brutal facts and then you make the decisions to do that. And very proud of what this board has accomplished. A lot of information is new for our new board members, so that's why we're doing this and bringing it. In the north end of Fort Pierce, but we've talked about a presentation to the school board itself to show the resources that are there, to show the gains that our children are making. We make no excuses. We look at the different outside challenges that we face and just say these are challenges but not reasons why our children can't be successful. If we can close a graduation gap where we are right now, you know, we're on our way. So I think it's important that we focus on the successes that we've had, as well as not shying away from the unique challenges. The Speakers Bureau, I think most of us in here look around, have spoken to that, a very strong program that was there, and if the kids knew, we were more nervous getting up in front of them if they were going to pay attention to us and to hear our stories. And I think those are just examples of what we've accomplished and what we're doing. Much work to do, but we'll again bring things to the school board. I listen carefully, hear what you say, and so we'll share some things on the curriculum itself, which was done before, but we can update that. Always welcome to meet with staff members individually and their departments, as some of you do. And then we'll bring a formal presentation regarding our turnaround schools, the resources that are in the school centers and what's going on there, and the strides that are made, as well as the challenges that we face. We know this year, we know it's just common sense will dictate that this year is going to be a unique year because of what's going on. But I hear what the board is saying, and I look forward to sharing that with you all, and continuing on the strong foundations that have been built up, not just in the last few years, but through the many years that the school district's been here, and many of you have been here longer than I've been, you know, on the board as well, and in the community. So look forward to that.
One other question for you, Dan. Would you is there any data that shows when, about how the schools are teaching this and when it's taught? Or is there any data on the teaching in the schools? And any accountability there for the teaching?
Can you give me an example of
Like
what
a
you mean
scope
by
and
data?
sequence? Like, is there a scope and sequence, I think?
Yes,
And when that happens?
there is a scope and sequence, and principals go in constantly. They're in the classrooms observing all the time, and they do know, they go in with the scope and sequence. They know what is expected to be taught. So there's that level of accountability right there in the classroom with your administrator. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, it's a long day. I'll speak with you, and maybe we can narrow it down a little bit. But I will tell you a story that Ms. Hawley told that really has resonated with me, Ms. Hawley, about the child that was sick, that was dying, that was in the sea, and they formed this link. That resonated with me. So right now, let's form this. You know what I'm talking about? So right now, we just need to form this link, to hold hands together. Ms. Dr. Mills is saying, she and I sit down. I think that the board as a whole should sit with you, because this is not a African-American issue. It's a education issue, it's our children's issue. So I think everybody, black, white, green, yellow, everybody should sit together, look at the curriculum, and make sure it works for all our kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Superintendent? All right. Well, thank you all for your robust conversation. Look forward to many more along this.
I asked him if we could talk about the zones today, the green, blue zones, and why we can put that on another, maybe if we could put that discussion on another, just to explain it. I have
Okay, we'll do that.
There's
We'll do
no
a-
challenge to it or anything, but.
We can do a formal presentation
but-
on that and the history
Yeah,
of that.
Once again, I really appreciate, this was, I took all that time up on, these emotional and social needs, which, again, Dr. Mills, I guess there's a lot of sides to educating a child in St. Lucie County, and that's one of them. And the one thing we didn't bring up today is the drug problem, which I thought the DARE program, that's, 85% of all major crime is related to drugs, and that's another problem. And drug dealers don't care who they sell to, they don't, But that's another discussion at another time. We can do the zones another time. Thank you. I guess the newbies have a lot to say, right? Thank you.
And I don't apologize.
All right, then we are adjourned.